You're listening to LVB Podcast Show with your friend, advocate, and host, Alvaro.
The interviews were very good. I felt very well doing those interviews for Channel New York 1. And what is important to realize for our listeners is that at least the way I felt was that I was speaking out, and I was speaking from someone who has disabilities, and my message was always believe in yourself, always advocate for yourself, and try to help other people. Be proud of who you are, and remember to do as much as you can for unity in the community. So during the interview that I talk in Spanish and English, as I said before, in part 1 of this episode, it was important for me to say to listeners and viewers that no matter what, it's very important to understand that we have gone a long way. We have really done a lot with the Americans with Disabilities Act in the United States and with other kind of legislation in other countries. But still there is a lot to be done. I discussed during my interview, and that was presented on TV at nighttime, and I was able to see myself talking about that on TV at nighttime. And that subject I discussed was employment, the lack of employment for people who are visually impaired, who are totally blind, and people with other disabilities all across the United States, and this is happening everywhere in the world. So the journalist interviewing me was saying, "You're absolutely right about that. I hope that companies and organizations do more about that." And so she was agreeing with that point, and they highlighted that part of the interview as the most important part of the whole interview that I did with them for 30 minutes, to show that at night time, on prime time. And that's why it's important to talk about employment always when you can, in order to improve the situation. It's a problem that is about everybody and concerns everybody, not only people with disabilities, but companies, organizations, and the general public in general, who has to understand that the abilities that people with disabilities has are enormous. And we have the same rights, and we have the same chances, or that's what we have to have. We don't have it at this point, but we need to have the same chances to be employed in any company or organization. What depends on being or not employed should be our talents, our abilities, our skills, our experience, our resume. Those are things that are key in order to get the job. But having a disability should not be an issue, a problem for the organization or company to hire us. Anyways, besides doing these interviews in the Chinatown event, during my stay of 1 month in New York, I was able to go to many radio stations, including the Catholic Charities Organization, Univision Radio, and others. And I also was interviewed on the phone by several radio stations. Interviews were done in Spanish. I was discussing the importance of providing more services for the Latino community with people that has disabilities. So in the Latino community, there's a lot of people with disabilities, like in any other community, and they don't have many services available in New York, and they should have more. In my experience going to Univision Radio, which was the first time in my life that I go to a radio station, it went great. I felt super well. And the presenter, the host, he told me, you seems to be a natural and you should think about the possibility of having a radio show on national radio, whether it's in the United States or somewhere else. And I felt so empowered by someone who has been decades in radio. His name is Mario, and he is very well known in New York in radio stations, especially in the Latino community. So coming from him, it was a wonderful compliment, the best compliment given to me about radio and podcasting, because this is a professional in radio, in one of the biggest radio stations in the country. Univision is one of the biggest stations in TV and radio in the Latino community across the United States. So it's huge. The place was huge, the building was huge, they have a lot of things going on, they have a lot of funding, and it's a big organization. So that has to be said for our listeners. My experience was wonderful. I felt very calm during the interview. It was a 1-hour interview. There was 2 people interviewing me, a woman and Mario. She was, I think, from Puerto Rico, if I'm not mistaken. They asked me a lot about people with visual impairments, with disabilities in general, how we cope, how do I travel from Colombia to the United States and back being alone, etc. It was a great interview, and again, they told me I should pursue something in radio, and that's something that I'm going to do in the future for our listeners for sure, because everybody's telling me that. And I want to do that. I feel that I'm going to be able to do a lot of good things on radio, and it's going to be very exciting to participate, whether it's in English or in Spanish or in both languages. So I felt that media is very important. It's very important to go to the media and talk about disabilities. It's very important to help people get educated about people with disabilities by going to the media. And so I really encourage people with disabilities everywhere in the United States and everywhere around the world to pursue going to the media like I did. I was the one who contacted many organizations, radio stations, and all of that, and I was able to get those interviews. If I did it alone, you can do it too. So I really think it's important to have our stories told on the media. And something else that I want to say is that I went to the Colombian consulate in New York. I did a presentation of 45 minutes or so. And after that, the new head of the consulate, who was with me during the whole presentation, told me, because of the awareness you have brought to us, we are starting a project to find people with disabilities among the Latino community, especially the Colombian community in New York. This is the first time in history they are going to have a database of Colombians with disabilities in order to offer them services. And they said it's because of you and the awareness that you have brought to us. So I was very proud and excited about that possibility, and I'm a part of that project already. There is a platform online. They invite me to become a member of that platform online, where we can discuss subjects related to having services offered to Colombians with different disabilities. So being a part of that was an honor to me, and is an honor to me today. It's one of the biggest achievements that I have had in my professional career as an advocate for disabilities, to have my own country, do something for people with disabilities in New York, and also we're going to cover New Jersey. And do that because I raise awareness about the importance of our community, like any other community deserves the same services and products like everybody else. I had the opportunity to speak in many events. I was able to speak in front of probably about 60, 70 Latino people in Queens. I was able to speak in Brooklyn. Well, I was able to speak in many places, including churches during my trip, telling them about the importance of having more services available for people with disabilities in the Latino community. And the first ever speech that I gave, because I never really gave a speech before in my life, was in Queens, in a huge center for Latino people, and in front of about 60, 70 people. And before I start talking, they sang actually, this song called Amigo from Roberto Carlos, a Brazilian singer that maybe someone listening knows about Roberto Carlos. And so they were singing that song, dedicated that song to me, which was very emotional for our listeners to have someone dedicate a song for you. And it was a bunch of people that they didn't know me, but they wanted to recognize that I had my cane with me and I was going to speak about disabilities, which was a subject not so many people had brought to their attention before. So they were very pleased to have me in their event, and so dedicated that song to me. And then I was able to speak to them during about 30 minutes. I had applauses, laughs, and at the end, some people invited me to coffee and talk about disabilities. They told me they really like the way I talk about this subject and they want to help find more people with disabilities among the Latino community in New York to give them services. And it was the best experience I could have asked for in the first speech in my life. From that moment on, I realized that I was good at speaking in front of the public, and I did it a lot more. And I feel very comfortable talking in front of people and explaining what is in my mind, what is in my soul, what is in my heart, and what I think is important for people with disabilities to talk about, to raise awareness about, to help educate the public about. So if you are listening to this, you may be thinking, wow, you did a lot. Yes, I did so much more than I ever expected in only a month. It was the busiest month in years for me, and a wonderful opportunity that I created because I was the one making all the appointments. I talked to the Colombian consulate, and I was able to get Univision, radio, and all of that by myself. From Colombia, I made the appointments, I introduced myself as an advocate for disabilities, and I made it happen, and I'm very proud of all that I accomplished. And it's just the beginning. Now, back in Colombia, I'm starting my own non-profit organization, and that is going to help people with disabilities here in Colombia. And I'm going to be telling you all about it in the future. And I'm very excited because it's very important to step up to the plate and help as many people as possible in the United States, in Colombia, and everywhere else in the world. Because the reality is that everybody in the world needs help. So we can do so much for other people, and there's nothing more rewarding than helping others, as I am sure you agree with me. So basically that was my trip in a few minutes, what I did in 1 month in the United States. I had my iPhone 6 Plus with me, It was wonderful to have it, helped me a lot, like always. And that's what I can tell you. I mean, I'm excited about everything that is coming, and I'm excited about being able to help people internationally and now also nationally in Colombia, in Bogota, the capital where I live at the moment. So I want to say thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions or you want to be on the show, please email me at lowvisionbureau@gmail.com. So from LVB Show, this is Alvaro saying good night.